Inflation. We're going to be talking about inflation in this unit. There's a lot of different slides. There's some maps and there's a lot of things in this. It's going to take a couple of days in the class to go over, so this is something good. We also have PowerPoints and we'll have simulations and some things in class about inflation. The definition of inflation is an increase in the average price level of all goods and services. So this is the definition. We use average price levels. Some prices fall, some prices rise. Economists measure the change in average price levels in the economy to assess the strength and stability of the economy. And inflation decreases your purchasing power money, and threatens the stability of the economy. Basically changes our decisions. It hurts a lot of different people. So some economists think inflation is the worst problem in the economy, is worse than unemployment. So that's one of the questions we'll be asking you. So purchasing power of money is where inflation actually reduces it and decreases the purchasing power. Inflation occurs for many different reasons, but it occurs when aggregate spending, total spending by consumers, businesses, and the government increases faster than the supply of goods and services. Deflation does occur, and it's the decline in the average price levels. So it's happened in the 90s and it's happened in the Great Depression. Disinflation is the reduction of inflation, but not the elimination of it. So for an example, in 1980, the inflation rate was 13.5%. 1985, a mere 5 years later, was 3.7%. It wasn't eliminated, but it was reduced a great deal. So just some pictures, causes of inflation. So we're looking at maybe supply and demand. How do we measure inflation? We use the CPI, Consumer Price Index. This measures changes in prices paid for by consumers for goods and services. CPI was first published in 1919 by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Basically, you compute the CPI, you select a base year, which to compare price changes, and then you get prices in a market basket. This would be an example of a market basket. Food and beverages, housing, all of these things would be in a market basket. Market basket is a sample of the 400 most commonly purchased items. It includes food, home ownership, gasoline, entertainment, insurance, and basic supplies. BLS then samples prices of these goods every month in 78 areas across the country. A 1% increase during the time adds 1 percentage point to the CPI. Say, for example, 1987 is the base year and equals 100. If 2004 was 326, then CPI increased 226%. Prices more than tripled, went from 100 to 326. There are some biases in the CPI. There's some problems with it. One is substitution bias. This is where if a product is more expensive, people will substitute a cheaper product and they won't buy the more expensive product. Here's a quality bias. Any improvements in technology are not measured in CPI. Products might last longer, they might be faster, they might be better, but the price really stays the same. That happens a lot with computers. There's new product bias. New products that are just created are not included in CPI. It took time to get the iPod, the iPhone in the CPI. There's new outlet bias. Online and wholesale clubs are not representative, so you might not have Amazon.com or Sam's Club or Costco in the CPI. They go to regular stores. There's also the Producer Price Index. Is the change in average prices of goods produced by companies in all stages of production. It's not used as much anymore, but when we were more of a manufacturing economy, it was compiled for all industrial and selected farm products. In the same, there's a base year, and it's soon to be 100. Here's how you calculate inflation. We'll do this in class. You take CPI year 2, which is the closest year, minus the CPI base year, which is the farthest year away from you, divided by CPI base year times 100. This is what it looks like, and we'll practice with one with CPI 2 minus CPI base, over the base times 100. So say we calculated 1988, 98, and 86. This is the farthest away, this is your base year, and this is the CPI 2. So we take this 109.15 minus 104.22 divided by 104.22 times 100. and that's how you calculate inflation. We'll do some samples in class. It's just a little chart showing inflation rate over time. The real value of the dollar is the value of current dollars after adjusting for price fluctuations. It's expressed in constant dollars. So if you look in 1987, the base year is 100. There's a $15,000 salary, but I made $30,000 in 2005. CPI is 326. So basically, current dollars, the salary doubled. Constant dollars represents a decline in purchasing power. My salary didn't double; it should have really tripled to keep up with inflation. CPI tripled, but my salary didn't. So to have a salary equal to 1987 wages, my salary would have to go up to $48,900. Looking at, I bought a house in 1987, CPI is 100. Sold it at 175 in 1991. The CPI is 175. Did I really make money? I broke even in this one. CPI went up 0.75, went up 75, so I just broke even. I didn't make any money, didn't lose any money. Here's the current bank interest rate. The inflation rate is 2.5%, so I actually lost money because this is what I gained. This is the plus and this is the negative. In wages, say my pay raise was 5, inflation was 2, so 5 minus 2, my raise is actually 3. If look at my raise is 3% and the inflation rate is 8, then my real raise would be negative 5%. So this is how we look at the real value of money and did I really make money? This is the declining value of the dollar since 1900. There are 3 types of inflation. There is demand pull, cost push, and profit push. Demand pull is where aggregate demand increases at a faster rate than aggregate supply. So it's basically demand is greater than supply. Prices increase when demand exceeds supply, so consumers pull the prices of goods higher. Results from too much money in circulation. We pay now and buy. We buy now, pay later. So we buy right away. We don't save. Cost push inflation. Producers raise prices to cover higher production costs. This could be labor costs, it could be oil. Oil prices will increase will cause increases in gas, plastic, cosmetic, and other petroleum products. The wage price spiral happened in the 70s and 60s when there was actually contracts. Employees would want wages higher than inflation. Businesses would then increase their prices, and then employees would want higher wages. When we had contracts and we had inflation in the contract, this would actually happen. It doesn't happen so much today. Then profit push inflation. We'll see this when companies raise prices even though costs are not increased, like in gasoline. They'll raise prices of gas even though there's no need to, and it just goes up. So those are the 3 types of inflation. Kind of looking at here's the demand going up and you see prices. This is supply being decreased like this. That's cost push. Who is hurt by inflation? There's basically groups of people that are hurt. Only one group or 2 groups are helped. But consumers, decreased purchasing power, they are hurt by inflation. The elderly or anyone on a fixed income is hurt by inflation. They cannot increase their income. They're hurt very badly. Workers are hurt by inflation. You have their real wages are actually reduced. Savers and investors are hurt by inflation. Inflation reduces their savings, decreases the money available for mortgages, able to for higher returns. Businesses hurt twice. They're probably the ones that are hurt worst. Higher prices will cause a decrease in demand. Higher prices will cause an increase in cost of production and less profits. They're hit twice. Debtors, people that borrow money, so they actually are helped from inflation. The money that they use to repay loans is worth less than the ones that really borrowed, so they pay back money with worth less and worth less money. Creditors, like the banks and lenders, they receive money that's worth less and less than they actually let out, so they're hurt from inflation. And then businesses, if they can anticipate inflation and anticipate the consequences of inflation, they actually can benefit. Cost of living adjustments and adjustable rate loans are ways to actually combat the inflation rate or inflation. These raise wages or income when inflation reaches a certain level. And this is what banks use, so they're not fixed rates, they adjust as the economy gets worse or inflation goes up. So you don't want that, you don't want an adjustable rate loan, but you do want a cost of living adjustment.